Hello and welcome to the 2024 Holiday Hack Challenge. We have reached Act 3. My name is David and this is the walkthrough for the first objective of Act 3, which is the Santa Vision. Before we get started, these are going to be fairly long videos because Act 3 has some pretty elaborate and complex challenges. But I wanted to thank you for all of you who subscribe to the channel or watch the videos. I am absolutely humbled and I'm feeling very grateful that so many of you tuned into the channel and watched these videos. Thank you for all the comments you left. And I just hope that you will find these last few videos of the walkthrough useful and educational or entertaining as well. For those of you who were just watching the videos but have not subscribed to the channel, I would like to ask you, if you like the videos, to consider subscribing. It means a lot for me, keeps me going, and I have some pretty cool things planned for this year. And no, this is not a mistake. So I am talking about 2025 because I'm recording these videos on the 2nd of January. As usual, I left everything to the very last minute. But time to dive in to the challenge. So let's take a look. So we left off with Act 2 and solved all the challenges. The Microsoft Key C7 was a fairly long one. We're going to have a similar one in Act 3. You probably experienced this throughout the game, that your score keeps resetting. After a while, I just stopped looking at the score. I think altogether you will get 100 points if you complete everything, but it is resetting every now and then for some reason. So the scoreboard, I think, is more for just entertainment, but in terms of objectives, we completed everything in Act 2. So time to travel to Act 3. And as you arrive to Act 3, you will get a ton of these new objectives and also hints, I think. You are in front of Santa, who is very upset. We can talk to Santa right now. So Santa will tell you how upset he is about the fact that we have now two factions of the elves and they're fighting each other. He is asking you to help out and bring order into this chaos. We have Santa Vision as our objective for this video, which is rated as difficulty 4. I think this year's challenges kind of nailed it with the difficulty levels. This is a complex and not easy challenge, but it's not horrible, and compared to the upcoming ones, it is definitely easier. Elf stack, I'm not really sure about the 5 here. I probably would have given a 4 for this one too, although the hard version of the challenge does have some pretty tough questions. But Santa Vision starts off nicely and it builds up towards the last step of the challenge in terms of difficulty. And you can see that we have Santa Vision A, B, C, and D. We get different hints for all these challenges and also for the gold version, so the hard version of the challenge. What I'm going to do now is first I'm going to solve this challenge on a silver level, so just going through the easy question variations and then do the hard one, so you can check the timestamps under the video and jump to the one that you're interested looking at. But I'm not going to do separate timestamps for the Santa Vision A, B, and C versions. The main reason is that some, not all, but some of the gold questions build on top of the silver one. You can, let me just think about it. I think in theory you should be able to do pure gold without looking at any of the silver ones, but I think it's a tougher one. A tougher route, that is, to solve the challenge that way. So let's just go and talk to the elf. Let's see if I can remember where we can find the elf for this one. I want to say we have to travel toilet tunnel, that is, to Ribblehoard. Is that the right one? Yes, that's the right elf. And there is, I'm sorry about that. There is a terminal, the Centavision terminal next to him. So talking to Rib will give us a few hints. So I recommend going through the whole conversation. Rib will just explain the challenge to us. So there is a site and there's some MQTT included with the challenge. Not a lot, but you have to learn a bit about the protocol MQTT, which is a good skill to have. I think these days MQTT is very, very popular as a messaging queue, especially with IoT devices. It's very, very commonly seen as a protocol. So if you check out the hints, you get one. I think this one is. I'm not 100% sure if this was a fresh one. We got 4 altogether, and I think that's all the hints that you get. But throughout the game, as I was playing it, I saw that the creators changed a couple of things here and there. So you might get this one as you join X3, or you might have given this one by talking to the elf. Not really sure what is the exact order of the hints, but the point is that with this one, you get some tips on the client software that you can use. I personally prefer the Mosquito with 2T flavor. That is a command line tool, but there is also this MQTTX, which is a graphical one. I installed both of them and I ended up just using the CLI version. And we have additional hints here for misplaced credentials. See if you can find credentials in any of the MQTT feeds. I'm not really sure if I saw any credentials there. But there are some useful hints, by the way, in the feeds for other challenges. I will point that one out when we get there. Jefferson is absolutely a must for this challenge, in my opinion. This is more for the gold version of the Centavision A. And that is also for the gold. So it's kind of mixed. But the point is that you have to start up the Centavision terminal. And this terminal is really just the interface. I can't remember. I think I saw this picture last year as well with the satellite thing. Anyway, it is hilarious having Santa in this Iron Man suit. And this is the Gator XOR terminal. So if you played last year, this should be familiar to you. There's the little gator here. You click on the gator as the eyes of the gator light up. You are connected to Gate XOR. It's actually not Gator XOR, Gate XOR. And you have to start a time travel. So what it does, it just sets up the environment for you. And I think you get 4 hours, if I'm not mistaken, 3 or 4 hours, we'll see it. Let's start the time travel. So it is going to spin up your environment that is dedicated to just you, and it exists throughout the time. There's no way to extend it, unfortunately. So if the timer expires, you have to spin up a new environment, which means that you have a new target IP address that can be a little bit annoying. So time is of the essence here. And once you're done, you can also collapse the environment, but it will auto collapse as the timer expires. Have to pay attention to take the IP address from the challenge and replace my IP address. And that all it takes. So it's pretty fast with the setup. Let me just very quickly swap here an IP address in my notes. I'm swapping it to my actual IP address for the environment. And I'm going to use an Ubuntu virtual machine. The first order of business is to find out what is on this IP address. So of course, we are going to run port scan using Nmap. I'm going to do a fairly quick one. If I'm not mistaken, this was working for me. If you just run Nmap without any additional any additional options, you will miss a few ports. So top ports 5000 was the one that worked for me, to find all the open ports and for all the services listening on the endpoint. And we're going to see a web interface, and there is also an MQTT port, plus there's a video feed, or more like MQTT feed, which I think it was a WebSocket, if I remember correctly. SSH is also open. You're not supposed to do anything with that one. So the important one is the port 8000, 9001, and then that is only important for the last challenge, but there's also MQTT, the standard MQTT port open on the endpoint. That will only come into play in the very, very last question for the hard version of the challenge. So if we visit this IP address and port, we see a web interface, and there is a login. Oops. There is a login form here. Beneath the login form, there's some additional details here. We will use this one for the gold version of the challenge. But of course, one of the first things that we can take a look at is the source. So it's pretty common with these ZTF challenges that there is something hidden in the source, and I think the alpha also mentions that you should pay attention to that. So looking at the, let me just open a separate tab for this maybe. So if you look at the source for the challenge, I'm also going to zoom in for the website here as well. What is the zoom here? 150 should be good for the video, I think. Yeah, so the code for the site is pretty standard stuff here, nothing super interesting. And then there is a common field that says MQTT alphanon alphanon. So this is probably a username and a password combination. Now, if you look at the objectives for the challenge, one of the first questions is what username logs you into the SantaVision portal. And if you try these credentials, alphanon and alphanon, and click sign in, I'm going to say never save. We have now the authenticated part of the site in front of us. So that means that for the silver, for SantaVision A, the first answer for the first question under SantaVision A is alphanon for the username. There we go. Easy peasy. All right, moving on. So once we're logged in, you have to authenticate further without using Wombly's or Airbuster's accounts. We'll see those two accounts interacting with the service later. And we need to use the Northvolt feeds on the monitors. What username worked here? All right, getting back to our virtual machine, we see some changes here in the URL. So we have, for example, ID, viewer, login name, alphanon. Not sure you can see that one. So let me just try to open. Do we have a text editor? I will use these as notes. So there is, just try to make this one a bit larger. 16. There's a couple of things here. For the login name, nothing really useful for our needs though, but we do have here a few buttons that we can push. So we can try to power on the monitor, and this one says please provide missing values. So we need to have connect as password, so probably a username and a password, camera feed server, camera feed port. Okay, from the port scan, we see this 9001 port, and as you mess around with that port and service, you will see that that is actually some sort of WebSocket feed, and you can also see that one by let me just open here network communications. We're gonna reload this, so you're also going to see WebSocket communication later as we try to connect. I'm gonna put this one down here and zoom in so you guys can also see it. yeah, so as I'm trying to power on monitors or connect to the broadcast feed, we will see the communication occurring here. We can also list available clients. So this one, I'm going to close that one for the time being before we connect. There's probably not much to see here. So we can see Elf Monitor, Wombly C, and Alabaster as available clients. This kind of tells me that Elf Monitor might be a username here. And then we can list also available roles. There's site default password role, Elf Monitor role, site Alabaster admin role, and site Wombly C admin role. All right, the camera feed server, since we only have one IP address, is probably this one here. And the port number is this 9001. At least we can give it a try. I mean, I have SSH and MQTT aside from that, and we're connected to the 8000 port. So these are good guesses. Now for the password one, I was stuck for quite some time until I realized that I might as well try to use all the information that I have. And I started looking at these roles and trying these one by one. Try this one, we can try it. So site default password role, power on monitors, we'll say connection failed, okay. But if I try site Elf Monitor role, even though this is the name of the role, what you will see is that is actually the password for Elf Monitor. Pretty interesting, I would say. And we also got instructions for the North Pole feeds. So you can try to also connect to this feed. And you will see here under messages, it says see monitors, but later we will see that we also going to receive the MQTT messages displayed here. I probably have to position later the message queue here, because you might not be able to see that from my very handsome face, but we'll be on the way to look at the messages. So I'm gonna do something like this. Okay, so on the monitors we can see the elves propaganda trying to convince elves to join. I don't know which side. I think, yeah, some of them are Wombly side, some of them are Alabasters. I think it's mostly Wombly's. No, there's also Alabaster here. Anyway, so we need to shut this down. Santa actually asked us to shut down this propaganda broadcast. We also have the answer for the next question. So what username worked here to turn on the monitors, and that was Elf Monitor. There's another score for Zendavision B. Zendavision C is asking us to change the feed to the Frostbit feed and see if there are any other feeds are available. And what is the code name for the Elf's secret operation? Okay, so we're gonna change the feed to Frostbit feed. This feed does have a bunch of hints for the decryption and deactivation challenges. Those are the last two challenges for the 2024 Holiday Hack Challenge. And as I'm going to click on the broadcast feed here, the messages section here will start changing. So the feed is now turning off the cameras, and we can see some messages. Let's encrypt cert for API Frostbit app. This is one of the hints. It is a location of a key file. That is the final step to obtain that. Well, that's the goal of the decryption challenge, basically, to obtain that key file and then do the decryption of the ransomware that was let loose in the North Pole. And you can read some uninteresting messages. Do you conduct regular frostbite serious conditions, and so on and so forth. Frostbite can prevent blah blah blah. There is again the API key. There is another hint here for the. I'm probably gonna save the important ones to the text file because it's changing fast. Unfortunately, the messages are also changing in a random order, so it might take a while to wait for all the messages. Okay, I'm going to do it in a different way. So if you listen to those messages, eventually you should get this list of various MQTT messages. And out of all of these, probably the most important one is this one here, additional messages available in Santa feed. But there's also two of these. So this Etsy Nginx Certs API Frostbit app key is a very important path that you need to remember for the decryption challenge. Actually, I think without this, you won't be able to solve that challenge. So it's a really, really important one. And for deactivate, that is one piece of information that you need. And this is the second piece of information that you need. So these two messages are for the last two challenges. I have that one in the notes, so you don't need to take any note of these. The important one is though the Santa feed. Okay, so let's tune into the Santa feed. I'm going to connect here. You can change, see the messages changing here. Santa is making, I don't know, presents, making his way to the North Pole, making his list, and so on and so forth. And I think it was probably the most efficient way to do this by just picking from my notes the feeds. There was the solution, actually. So two important messages. We don't know, but this one is important for later. The one that is important for the current question is this one, because it is the name of the secret operation that the elves are launching. There are a few additional little tidbits here, hints, what you need to do for the next couple of questions. There's super admin mode true, and single admin mode is now set to false. If you remember back, the last question is asking you to kick out Wombly and Alabaster. The Vision C is asking for the secret operation. So by submitting to the message queue a message and changing that variable, we'll be able to solve Vision D. For Vision C, we just need to paste in the name of the secret operation, which seems gibberish, and that will have a significance for the gold version of the challenge. We can just submit this one for the silver solution. And the last thing that we need is Santa Vision D. Now, by looking at, again, the messages here from the Santa feed, we see that, oh, actually, let's do it this way. We can see that there is the single admin mode false. Super admin mode false is not what we want. We still want to have admin privileges. We just want to kick out the other admins. And we can see that Wombly has an admin role, and Alabaster has an admin role, and Santa is a super admin. I think that's also kind of a hint for the first gold question. But the idea would be then to take this, and on the interface, you can see that we can publish to a feed. So MQTT is really just a message queue. We can read the messages, and we can also publish messages if we have sufficient rights. Now in this case, Elf Monitor can publish to the feed. And here, all we need to do is, instead of single admin mode false, we need to set it to true. We're gonna publish that feed. And if all went well, this should mean that if I switch back to the North Pole feeds, because we kicked out the two other admins, the broadcast should change now. So I'm going to connect to the North Pole feed. And now we can see happy Santa jumping around on, well, what seems to be some sort of hovering pogo stick. Weird. But the last question is asking us what type of contraption do you see on Sentinel? I had to look up this word. English is not my mother tongue, so I had no idea that is actually a word for. I think it's some sort of like a vehicle or transportation method. I already forgot what is the exact translation, but the point is those are pogo sticks. So the answer here is a pogo stick. Interestingly, I didn't know contraption as a word, but pogo stick is something that I knew from my childhood even. I guess watching Cartoon Network does have some advantages. So by clicking submit, you can see that now we're rewarded with the silver version of SantaVision. All right, so we have all the silver answers here. Time to dig into the gold version. And we can talk to Rib for additional hints. So we'll give you a hint, stay curious, sometimes smallest details often overlooked are key to the kingdom. Pay close attention to what is hidden in the source. This is a hint for SantaVision A. And the answer or the information that we need is not even in the source. It's actually in plain sight. Then another one, look beyond the surface. Headers and subtle changes might just open new doors. That is a hint for SantaVision B, the gold that is. This one is for C. Sometimes answers are in the quiet moments. I don't really get this one, how this is relevant for that. And SantaVision C, the gold version of it, was a bit of an outlier for me. It was just not like belonging to the series. And then the last one is think about the kind of ride Santa would take in a world filled with innovation. This is for the last gold challenge for SantaVision D, and this hints that by going through the gold path, we will see different pictures in the feed. So not these ones, but they will turn into a different picture. Well, we don't know yet how, but that's the idea. Okay, to start over with the clean state is with the logout functionality, of course. And now we need to provide different username and password somehow. Actually, it was probably a bit early to log out, but that's cool. So the thought process can be demonstrated here. So the hint said, look at the source. It's actually not just the source, but above this comment field, you can also read SantaVision, copyright 2024, snow rights reserved. That's hilarious, by the way. And the topic site status is available. So apparently there is another topic. So far we've seen North Pole feed, Frostbit, and Santa feed, but apparently there's also a site status feed. So let's go back with the Elf Anon user. Where is it? Over here. I'm gonna log back in and then connect as okay. Username field, so probably it's not remembering it. The Elf Monitor password, assigned Elf Monitor role, and then IP address and port. To power on the monitors, you need to power on the monitors before you can connect to the feed, I think. And then site status. And I'm going to connect to this broadcast field. Let me just get to that part of my notes so I can show you all the messages from that feed. So we don't have to like look at the messages here. So we have a new set of messages. Publishers are probably think that this feed using this HTML is not permitted. Oh, I don't know why I tried to hit publish. Okay, so broker authentication admin succeeded. Broker authentication failed. Alabaster succeeded. Bombly C. So we see some new messages here. And the list of messages, probably the most important of all these, is this one here. Not sure what this special character is doing here. I think it was just an extra for me copying and pasting the messages. There's a different way to look at these messages. You can use an MQTT client, and then it just, for example, if you use the terminal client, will print on the terminal. I find this one relatively easy to wait for all the messages and just see what comes up, and then copying them away. But this one here, this one is super duper important. So under this URI on the same server, hopefully, we should be able to download this application default.bin file. When I hit enter, it does download application default. Oh, I already have this one in my download folder. Let me just delete here a couple of things. Yeah, there's also some PNGs. We probably don't need these. I'm gonna get rid of those as well. And this is something that we would use later for other challenges. You should be able to access that file though already, but I will talk about that in the decryption challenge. All right, so let me just hit download once again. You have a nice clean version of it. I'm gonna clean my downloads here because of my OCD. So there is a binary under our downloads folder. Let's just do an ls. So this application default binary is let's do the human readable size is approximately 7 megabytes. Now you can try to, I don't know, run this binary. So you can do like, I don't know, bash. Probably needs executable. So I can also do like chmod plus application default, and I can try to like do bash dot slash application default bin. But this is cannot execute a binary file. Okay. Obviously the file command can be used here. And this one says this is a JFFS2 file system in there. And if you remember back, one of the hints from rib was, let's see if I can find it. I'm gonna search for rib again. File system analysis, Jefferson. So Jefferson, the link here, is a Python library for analyzing JFFS2, and I already installed it. I recommend following not this one for the installation steps, but just downloading the code here and then doing the proper setup for Jefferson, because I think I had some troubles with the pip install. So it is install poetry. Let me just see if I have the instructions here. I don't think I do. But the point is, if the pip install doesn't work for you, just install it from source and then install the dependencies. And once you have done that, you install Jefferson. The command is fairly easy. So Jefferson, the name of the file that acts as a JFFS2 container. Now, JFFS2 is very common with IoT devices. If you find firmware finds from an IoT device, which sometimes you can just download from the vendor website because you need to do firmware updates, the file system on that firmware image might be JFFS2. It's a very, very common one. And the -d option will basically just unpack that JFFS2 container into a new folder. So I'm going to hit enter on it, and you can see that it's writing out a bunch of these files. And we have now a new folder, the application default. Now, if you navigate through this source code directory, basically, that's the only directory that we have. So in application default, there's app, src, and then you have accounts, core, static, and you see a bunch of the application related files here. This is the code of the web application itself, I think part of it. And the one that we're interested in is under accounts. And if you look at the views one, you see here the various possible URIs that the application is accepting. And you can see that this is a Python Flask application here. And towards the end, you see the binary file that can be requested. But there's also another file here, which is SANS top secret DB 2024-Z SQLite. So another resource here. Let me just double check if I don't have the There's the SQLite one. I'm gonna delete that one as well. Forgot to purge these ones before I started the video, but that's okay. I'll show you that you can download the file now. And this will give us an SQLite file. And we can interact with that SQLite file. So our hope is that we'll find something juicy in it. There is another set of credentials. Let's see if I can find that one under SRC core views. And I couldn't really figure out what to do with these, but there's also a broker admin. I couldn't make this one work with MQTT, but I may have done some mistakes. This credential is not used for anyone. I'm not sure if it's an Easter egg or anything, but you can find additional details about the inner workings, the various feeds. This is really the application code itself. So anyways, if you can figure out what to do with these credentials, drop it in the comments, I guess. Under views, we downloaded the SQLite file, and we should have Center Secret DB SQLite. Let's make this again human readable for the size, fairly small one. Now, I made the mistake initially, and I did SQLite Center Secret DB, and then it complains that this file is encrypted or is not a database. That's not the binary that you want to run. It's SQLite 3 actually, and that one connects to the SQLite DB file. .tables in SQLite, everything is beginning with a dot. So .tables will give you the list of tables. We have Alembic version and users. So if you do a show star from users, select. I don't know why I wrote show. So select, of course. There was some weird moment of my brain. Yeah, so select star from users, right? So normal SQL query. So listing at the contents of the users table. We only have one row here with something that looks like a username, center site admin, and this thing here that looks like a password, sent as really cool password in LeetSpeak, basically. All right, so let's try it out, see if it actually works, and then we can submit center site admin as the solution, I guess, for the first question. So this is a new, no, don't handle the passwords. So this is a new username that we have, and because the login worked, so instead of Elf Anon, now we have a different user. That means I can go back under the objectives, and I can try to submit this one for Centavision A, and there we go. We got the gold trophy for Centavision A. Centavision B was about authenticating further without using credentials, and we used the ELF monitor user. Now, instead of ELF monitor, we have to use a different username, and this is the moment where we can switch back here to the network side. I'm going to reload the page, and I'm not sure if you can see it, but I'm gonna zoom in. So here under the headers and the actual hint for this Vision B was to look at the headers and things that change. As we log in, we can see broker user and broker password. Now these two headers will only appear if you use the, center site admin user. With Elf Anon, this is not displayed. You will see the broker topic header, but not the broker user. I'm going to save the username and the password for this one, especially the password, because this password is reset and generated with every every login actually. Why is it not pasting it? Okay, we got the password here. Replace. All right, there we go. It was in 5 different places in my notes. So these credentials, I should be able to use it. I'm gonna switch back from raw to nicely formatted. So you can see here on the top, we have the credentials. So I should be able to use these credentials, just like I did it with the Alp monitor. Helper. Seems like there was still one place where I didn't have the password swap. Right. Okay, I'll just pull this one down again. IP address and port is the same, and if we can power on the monitors, it seems to be good. And then get North Pole feeds, for example. No, wait a second. It's still not powered on. Yeah, there's no feed, and then we switch to the broadcast feed. Okay, we see the ALF propaganda again. So after signing off and signing back into the portal, the feed changes back to the original pictures. And I'm not sure, but yeah, there is some MQTT. I just wanted to show you that there is some WebSocket communication here as we connect to this port. So this is actually a WebSocket port for the MQTT. So through this WebSocket, we can communicate to the MQTT server. That's the point of the 9001 port here on the server. All right. So this is good. And that means that we have the answer for SantaVision B. So instead of Elf Monitor, now we have this Santa's Helper 2024 user account. And this was the gold trophy for SantaVision B. SantaVision C is tricky because it is not in this logical alignment of the questions. If you remember back, with SantaVision C, we had the feed from Santa feed. We can tune into this feed actually. It should be feasible. So here under messages, we had the name of the secret elf operation. Okay. And this, even though it's probably the easiest one out of all the gold challenges, gave me the most headache because I was looking at various places and I couldn't really figure it out. Now, if you look at this string here, it is pretty much all gibberish. So I have to thank to Devastation, who helped me with some of the final challenges, giving me some gentle nudges, never the answer. So I really appreciated his help. And Elaka Marcus also helped me out with, I think, this challenge here, passing on some hints. And this is basically an obfuscated string here. And the obfuscation, as you can imagine, is very, very simple. So if you're playing a CTF game, some of these obfuscated or encrypted strings are just some very primitive, old historic ciphers. So of course, one of the ciphers that I had in mind when I see this scrambled text was Caesar cipher. There are different ways to solve this. You can go and just use CyberChef. With the ROT13, you can adjust the number of rotations, and if you drop this as an input and keep playing with the number of rotations, you will see that if you rotate it 10 times instead of 13 times as the default, you get snowmobile as the answer. This is not the original way I solved it, because there is a site that I really, really like. This is a Caesar cipher decryptor. Sure, let's consent. You can paste in the ciphertext and you can do a decrypt the brute force, and it will drop the most probable, most likely string on top. So you can see again that with 10 rotations, you get snowmobile. So the answer here for the C version of the challenge is just snowmobile. Not sure what was that gibberish part. Oops. Here. Center vision. C. Why does it keep dropping this in there? Copying and pasting from my VM is getting complicated. Okay, now we have snowmobile. There we go. So we can submit it. Copying and pasting was more challenging than the actual challenge itself. So very, very simple gold question here. And it's kind of out of sequence because originally our goal was, of course, to change the feed, right? Let me just close down all these. So I want to change the feed, but there's a little problem here. If you look at the website, now the publish to feed part is gone. We can, of course, bring this one back. I mean, this is the CDF of hacking skills after all. So if I look at the components here, I should be able to find the part where we used to have the option to publish messages. It's under here. Yeah, so you can see, just put this one in full screen. We need more real estate for this one. So you can see that display is now none. I think the original one was inline, but you can just delete the style. And it brings back the two fields. Okay, easy peasy. So with this SANS helper account, I should be able to then publish the same message that we did with send a feed, which was just see, yeah. So we can try to publish to send a feed, and the message to publish was single admin mode true, right? So this, in theory, should be it. But when I click on publish to feed, I get this error message. Just try to grab this one. So I get the error message that publishing to a feed using this HTML form is not permitted for this account client combination, but I have to use this one because that's the gold track of the challenge. So how can I solve it? And the answer is using an MQTT client. So these are still valid credentials, and I can, and this is probably a good opportunity for me to show you how you would look at the feeds with Mosquito, for example. So we can subscribe with the Mosquito_sub program to a feed. You can see here the details. So we need to provide username, password, port, and IP address, and the name of the feed, of course. So with Mosquito sub, this will look like something like this. Hopefully my credentials are still correct. And we need the IP address of the server, the MQTT port number. SANS helper is this user account that we're logged in currently. Just won't be able to use the HTML interface, so username and password, and then Santa feed is the feed that we're connecting to. And immediately we'll just start seeing the messages here displayed on our terminal. This is probably an easier way to capture all those messages. I did not use this method. I probably should have, though, because it is a lot more convenient. But sometimes you can see that there's an extra like new line here. So anyways, this is subscribing. We want to publish, however. And there is the Mosquito hub command that you can use. Again, we need to specify the host, the port, username, password, topic, and then there is a message option here. So So let's just try that. And in the meantime, I want to tune back to the North Pole feeds because I would like to see how these messages are going to change. All right, so the command, fairly simple, mosquito pub instead of the sub, host and port, username, password, send a feed. The only thing that is different in this case is that we also have a message here, and we're switching single admin mode to true. That's it. Then I hit enter on this. This gets published, and as it gets published, we can already see the feed changing to Santa being super cool on these hovercraft. So instead of a hovering pogo stick, now he has a hovercraft. And if all goes well, I can get here and submit the word hovercraft, and this gives us gold for Santa Vision. That is the end of the Santa Vision challenge here. Okay, pretty cool challenge overall. And yeah, as I expected, all these videos are probably going to be around an hour to get through all the little details. I also like to mention some of the pitfalls that I had. So again, big thanks for Elaka Marcus and Devastation from the Discord for giving me some gentle nudges, especially for finding the password for Elf Monitor. I think that's the hardest part. Like, probably most people got stuck on that one because nothing really looks like a password, and to have the flexibility and thinking outside of the box of using role names as passwords, I think it's a pretty tough one as a twist. But I really enjoyed this challenge. This one was probably in a tie my favorite for Act 3. And it was in tie with the deactivation challenge, which I found a bit unrealistic, but it was very fun to solve. This one, however, had a lot of aspects that I found really, really, really realistic and real life like. The fact that you sometimes need to circle back to find additional credentials based on the knowledge that you already gathered through some lore privileged user exploitation is what you do during a penetration test. And building on top of the information that you have one by one can get you to sometimes even a full system compromise. We managed to get the application code, databases, lots of admin credentials, credentials that we couldn't even use in the challenge. So pretty cool stuff overall. Also, the usage of MQTT was a really cool one. Getting to know a bit how these messaging queues work is, I think, is all a big and important part of the challenge. So overall, I really like this one. I think it was an awesome challenge. Okay, so with Santa Vision done, the next challenge is going to be the elf stack. That is going to be a long video because I'm going to show you two different ways how to solve the challenge, both the easy and the hard one. So we're going to look at the GUI elastic stack version of the solution and the CI solution. Now, come and check it out with me. The elf stack challenge in the next video.